It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Thanks for joining us. I'll be your host this morning. Glad to see all you folks out there this morning. I see folks out there in Sioux Falls and Buxton. I think that's Maine. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry if I insulted you, Buxton. See Fort Wayne and Muncie. I believe that's all Indiana area. I think I mentioned Town and Country, Huntington, and some other folks are out all over the country. Glad to have you guys on board with us this morning. Pleasure to see you out there. You know, we're facing a time of radical change in our nation. And I see a trend where more and more folk are coming awake all the time. The challenge, the problem, of course, is that it may be too few, too late. And the problem, of course, is that we have this, and I don't, you know, you've heard the term that's been coined, the vast right-wing conspiracy. I got to tell you, folks, this is the vast left-wing conspiracy, the globalization conspiracy, the enslavement of America conspiracy, the end of freedom and liberty as we know it conspiracy. The 14th Amendment is the betrayal of America conspiracy. It's happening to us every day, and it's all around us. I don't understand who cannot see it or why they can't see it. We're going to wrap on 4 different issues this morning. The first is that the EPA has now become nothing more than a domestic terrorist cloaked as an agency of the federal government. They are a domestic terrorist organization, and no one should make any mistake about who they are and their goals. Their goal is power for power's sake. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about individual rights. They don't care about anything other than the expansion and growth of their agency at your expense and cost. And they have become a domestic terrorist. I can't say it any plainer, folks. I mean, aren't you tired of hearing these happy little phrases from your mainstream media Ministry of Propaganda folks that you listen to all the time? Aren't you tired of hearing how they pay them deference as if these scumbags have any right to deference? They're actively seeking your demise. And yet the media approaches them as if they're entitled to respect, admiration. I have no respect for any of them. Not a single one. Fire them all. Every last one. Without exception, they all need to be eliminated. Dishonorably discharged. Congress, every agency employee, everything frozen and on hold until we get this country back in some semblance of an order. That's it. There is no other alternative for us. The alternative is to allow this continued slide into authoritarianism, where you do what you're told or else. I know that people say, well, you know, what can I do against the EPA? They're a mammoth. That should tell you everything you need to know. Anytime you feel powerless in the face of government's onslaught, the truth is right in front of you. That is the spoken truth. Our second topic, Harris Corporation. This is the company that has created Stingray. Now, Harris Corporation is a multinational conglomerate megalith. And I am calling for the destruction of Harris Corporation. Flat out, end it. I don't care what it takes. I know that we cannot boycott them because they don't make a lot of consumer products. But your state buys from them. Your police departments buy from them. Your state, or not militia, but your state National Guard buys from them. The federal government buys from them. And we need to eliminate them because they have betrayed us by selling Stingray to local police departments. Every citizen should be contacting your local police department and demanding the exposure of whether or not they own a Stingray. And if they do, it should be immediately returned. And if they say it's secret because they have a non-disclosure with Harris, then you need to file a lawsuit against them and immediately get an emergency injunction to force them to remove it from their possession. Give it back to Harris, sell it to some other third world country, but get it out of here. Harris needs to be destroyed. Why? Why do I sound so frustrated with Harris? Well, because they've manufactured a tool that allows tyranny to reign. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. Harris Corporation is the creator of the Stingray device. They're based in Melbourne, Florida. You can go visit their website at harris.com. They demand a non-disclosure agreement in place before the police department can have it, so that they can't disclose they're using it. So it's time for a peaceful civilian uprising. Harris Corporation must be destroyed. Find any dirt on the company. Find anybody who's a whistleblower within it. Find anybody who's an employee that will spill. Find any way that you can get the edge of your blade under the armor and do them in. Find any contract they have and do whatever damage you can do within the boundaries of the law. And let's make a concerted effort to destroy the company that wants to destroy America. How's that? If it serves no public use and it's aiding and abetting the enemy, then it's time for we the people to take it out of play. If you work for the telecommunications company that provides the service lines to Harris, find some way to disrupt them. Shut them off when they forget to pay their bill. Immediately. Just cancel their service. Don't send them a warning. Don't make a phone call. Terminate them. If you're a company that deals with Harris and they owe you money and they haven't paid you, file a lawsuit immediately once they're 30 days beyond. That's it. Go after them in any way, shape, and form you can. Do we need, perhaps, and if there's an attorney out there, let's talk about whether or not we ought to have a class action lawsuit by the American civilian population. A Fourth Amendment action, civil action against Harris. Break them financially. Put them out of business. They're not the only one, by the way, but they're one of many, 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 many. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday I was very frustrated about this police state we're living in. And I said, what's your plan to solve the problem? I'm asking you again. What can you do to end the tyranny no matter what? I watched a movie not so long ago. It was on Netflix. You know what? Let me touch on this. It was called Flame and Citron. Citron. Flame and Citron. And it was about these two guys that were partisans in Denmark during World War II. And I will talk further about that and what they did to take their country back and fight against the evil that had overtaken their nation. We need to have the same mindset. I'm not saying that we need to find a newspaper man who, is writing positive stories about Obamacare and shoot him in the street, that's what they did. When they found a traitor in their midst, they dealt with him. But we're not in an open shooting war, at least not yet. And there are peaceful legal methods that we can take that are within the boundaries of law that we can do to terminate these companies that are selling us out for a couple of small quarterly profits, folks. And I've had enough. Haven't you? Our third topic, Indiana eliminates Common Core. Or really, not so fast. The story that's out right now, and everybody's celebrating that Indiana has killed Common Core. But the truth is, what they've actually done is changed the nature of the game. All they've done is replaced it with a Common Core replicant with a new name. So don't get your panties in a wad yet, because the truth is, I don't think Indiana's eliminated Common Core. And this is not the model that we want to follow across the other 57. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been listening to President Obama. The other 50 states in the country. All right, our fourth topic. The Obamacare extension is a confession to their lawlessness. And worse yet, all of the people that have been getting subsidies through the federal system, they're illegal. It says so right in the law. According to the Democrat, liberal, progressive pukes in the planet, the law of the land. Well, if it's the law of the land, then how do you get away with unilaterally changing it unless you're a banana republic, illegal alien dictator? Oh, I'm sorry. That's what we have. Golly gee, I forgot. Forgive me. But the truth is, the law very clearly states that you can only obtain insurance subsidies through, quote, exchanges established by the state. Now, as much as Obama would like to have this be one big state that he's totally in control of and just regional managers in the 50 regions, we're not there yet. And so every individual who's received a subsidy through Obamacare, through the federal site, and nobody's gotten it through the state sites because, well, none of them work. All right, let's get into our first topic. The EPA is a domestic terrorist. And I mean that seriously. And you know what? I want you guys to start using the right phraseology, the right nomenclature, and I want you to start using language like that, that's inciting. I want you to use language like that stop with the PC nonsense. Call these traitors what they are. Tell your friends that the EPA is a domestic terror organization. Start calling it that. That's exactly what they are, folks. They have just come out with a new ruling that they want to now seize control of all public and private waterways, including temporary wetlands and waterways. Now, this is the largest governmental land grab in history. And they proposed this change on Tuesday, so yesterday. And, of course, it's sparking concerns with, lots of individuals who watch the EPA. Not that they have any insight into these people because they're surrounded by an opaque wall of protection. But it would extend into seasonal ponds, streams, and ditches, including those that are on private property and including those that are dry or wet weather creeks. Dry during the normal times, but only get water when it rains. On private property. Hey guys, that includes the trickle that runs through your backyard that drains off the guy's backyard behind you. The small stream that only gets water during a torrential rainstorm would now belong to the EPA. And it doesn't matter that it's on your land. Louisiana Senator David Vitter says, this rule may be one of the most significant private property grabs in U.S. history. The EPA proposal would apply pollution regulations to the country's so-called, quote, intermittent and ephemeral streams and wetlands, which are created only during wet seasons or simply after it rains, but are temporary. Okay, guys, what part of now, first they're in their new rules, they're shaping up to take control of all water that has a nexus to navigable water so that they can expand the Clean Water Act to incorporate everything that they've been blocked from having access to or jurisdiction over. In other words, the original Clean Water Act says that they only have jurisdiction over navigable water. So how do they get around that? Well, in typical government duplicitous fashion, here's how they do it. They redefine it to say anything that has a nexus, that has in some way, shape, or form even the most ephemeral connection to that navigable water affects it. And so therefore, we have control over that too. That means every flood zone in the country. That means every 500-year flood zone, every 1,000-year flood zone. That means the White River Basin, which is the entire northern half of Arkansas, will fall up underneath EPA control. Private property, public property makes no difference. You kidding me, right? No, I'm not. Now they're saying, and by the way, that rule change, the way they wrote it up, was originally not supposed to include, dry creeks and so forth and so on. Now they've even wrapped that up underneath there. The Supreme Court ruled on the issue in 2001 and 2006. And again, I remind you that Jefferson told us that the Supreme Court is not the final arbiter of the Constitution, nor are they the final arbiter of rules. Any rule that exceeds the government's authority as given to it in the Constitution is null and void on its face. Anyway, the second ruling restricted the federal government's authority by stating that such waters must be, quote, relatively permanent or continuously flowing and sizable, like oceans, rivers, streams, and lakes. In defending the proposed change, the EPA and their lackey, the Army Corps of Engineers, said on Tuesday that determining the Clean Water Act protection for streams and wetlands became confusing and complex. No, it didn't. It's not confusing and complex. It's only confusing and complex when you're trying to baffle us with BS. Quote, for nearly a decade, members of Congress, state and local officials, industry, agriculture, environmental groups, and public asked for a rulemaking to provide clarity. We didn't ask for anything. Nobody wants clarity out of you. In fact, the only thing we want out of the EPA is their demise, their removal, and anyone who's associated with them removed from their position and labeled, what? Dishonorably discharged for treason against the United States of America. They argue that waters, quote, form the foundation of the nation's water resource, and the changes would not extend the government's reach. Oh, come on. Quote, to be clear, our proposal does not add or expand the scope of the waters historically protected under the Clean Water Act. That's a lie. EPA says 60% of stream miles in the country only flow seasonally. Oh, so they're going to grab an extra 60% of brand new stream mileage or after rain, but that they have a considerable impact on downstream waters. There you go. There's their justification. The impact, the nexus with downstream waters states that they now have the opportunity to step in and seize under their dictatorial control 60% of all the stream miles in the United States and the surrounding area, including the buffer zones around them that they're sure to have. The proposal is subject to a 90-day comment period in which federal officials vow to conduct a robust public outreach effort that will include discussions across the country to gather the input needed to shape a final rule. The agency said the proposed change is supported by the latest peer-reviewed science. That's a lie. They won't show us the science. They keep saying that it's backed up by peer-reviewed science. There is no empirical evidence to back it up. It is all lies, and they have refused steadfastly to produce the alleged science. I got to tell you, since Congress won't do this, folks, look, what you got to realize is this, and this is what it's going to come down to. You know, you're going to have to start learning how to become partisans. I don't know how else to say it. You're going to learn how to fight a guerrilla war against our own government. That's what it's going to come to. And it's already there. Time has passed for you to think about it. It's already here. You need to learn and educate yourself about how to fight a guerrilla war against your own government. What context does that take? All right. Let's understand what this is. It is to do anything and everything that you can do to get a broomstick into the spokes of government. Stall it any way you can. File a lawsuit. It makes no difference even if you win. Drag them down in court. Get 1,000 lawsuits filed. Pay the doggone filing fee. $18 in your county. $500 federally. Talk about an outrageous abuse of the court system. It's $500 to file a federal lawsuit. You believe it? But whether or not you win, lose, or draw, make their attorneys dance. Do everything in your power. Pass local resolutions countywide. Get state resolutions. Get your county commissioners to go to war against these people. Get them to pass state resolutions, county resolutions that say the EPA cannot come in here without contacting us first. And then make them hold to the letter of the law. Put draconian measures in there that they have to provide and produce an impact statement for everything they do. Drag them to their knees with paperwork, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they're doing to us. A guerrilla war against a terrorist organization would be applauded. Now, look back at our founders. What did they do? When the British came to them and said, you're going to pay a tax on this tea, they jumped over to the ship, they swam over to the ship, and they threw and dumped the tea overboard. It was civil disobedience. It was an act of civilian revolt. What can you do to gum up the works? What can you do to drag this entire implacable monster to a screeching halt? I'm asking you to put some serious thought to it. But I want you to keep your mouth shut, and I want you to seriously consider what it is that you can do. Don't telegraph your ideas to other people, because you'll find someone that will stand in the way and say, don't file that lawsuit. Go ahead and file it. Go ahead and do what you got to do to drag this beast to its knees. You know, Gulliver was defeated and knocked down to the ground not by one Lilliputian, but by 10 million Lilliputians that simply merely dragged him to the ground. And they tied him up not with ropes, but with thread. But with enough thread, even Gulliver couldn't move. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. Contact me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. For the purposes of the NSA, I'm not advocating anything illegal. I'm just telling Americans to do everything within their legal power to shove it up their butt. We'll be right back.